Hey, Hobo. Hey, PH. Hey, Eli. How's everybody doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it's just past midnight on Thursday, August 8th. And this is the news for Wednesday, August the 7th, day 897 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. I'm hanging in there, Eli. How are you doing? Hey, Cheyenne. Hey, Bobby. Hey, Bjorn. Hey, Vanetta. Cool. How is everybody doing tonight? Hey, Renee Herman. Hey, Steve with a V. Thanks for the heart. Anthony, how you doing, pal? Things quiet tonight or are things popping? I hope they're quiet. Hey, Trash Hunter. Hey, G2. Whoops. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with the fog of war. The fog of war. We don't really know what is happening inside of Russia right now in the Kursk and Belgorod regions. We don't really know. There are things we think we know, and I want to look at those. But it is important to recognize, hey, Mad Mike, hey, Lars, hey, Marilyn, hey, Jeff. It is important to recognize that in what is the first major incursion by Ukrainian forces into Russian territory, right? I'm not talking about Freedom of Russia Legion. I'm not talking about the Siberian Brigades. I'm not talking about the Russian Volunteer Corps. I'm talking about the Ukrainian Armed Forces 22nd Mechanized Brigade going over the border into Russia. To the best of my knowledge, this is the first time that Ukrainian forces have crossed that border in this fashion, invasion force style. This is the first time we're seeing that. And Kyiv is remarkably quiet on the subject. They are not saying a word. Analysts are deriding the move. They're saying that they're calling it a stunt, that it's psychopathic. And they say that the move gives the manpower shortage and pressure of the Donetsk front line is a fool's errand. Now, Dominic Nichols, who I absolutely adore over on The Telegraph, made the point that these are the same people who bitched about the lack of a Ukrainian counteroffensive last summer. And so you can't have it both ways. You can't say that it's bad sitting there, and you can't say that it's bad moving forward at the same time. That's bullshit. I am not an expert. I don't have an opinion on the military strategy of this thing. But I'll tell you, I trust the Ukrainians. I trust the Ukrainians. You have to, because they're the ones doing all the bleeding and dying. And they're the ones whose lives and country and future are on the line. Now, maybe it's a decoy, Scott, for something bigger. Maybe it's exactly the same thing that the Russians are doing in the north in the Kharkiv direction, right? Trying to pull Russian troops away from the front to battle this incursion. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a feint. We don't know what the goal is, and without knowing what the goal is, it's very hard to speak to the efficacy of this strategy. Could it be a buffer zone? God knows Ukraine needs a buffer zone more than Russia does, that's for sure. So what is the goal? We don't know. Could there be multiple goals? Of course there could be. Is this an opportunity for the Ukrainians to practice maneuver warfare which they have been unable to do so far, but which we expect, as the Russian lines crumble, that the opportunity for maneuver warfare will kick in, and then having experienced brigades could have a defining effect on the battlefield. Could it be that the maneuver warfare piece of this and practicing that maneuver warfare is just a side effect of what the real mission and goal is? Now, look, I don't know this to be true. But what we do know about the area is that there's a major junction there for gas pipelines to Europe. That's a real thing. Now, could it be that they are headed to this gas pipeline for the purposes of shutting it down or taking control of it, being able to turn the taps on and off? I don't know. Now, remember, these gas and oil pipelines run through Ukraine, and Ukraine is supposed to get money, transportation costs, transportation fees for having the stuff go to Europe across Ukraine. But the Russians aren't paying, of course. The Ukrainians are owed hundreds of millions of dollars in these transit fees, but the Russians aren't paying. What would be the effect on the European market if this gas line were shut down? That would be an economic concern to the EU, I'm certain. But it may play less into Ukraine's goals of snipping the funding for the war, because it's the gas revenues, it's the oil revenues that fund the war. Make no mistake. And so why wouldn't that be a legitimate target for them? And it's right there. Now, of course, if they wanted to blow it up, maybe they could have done it without invading the country, or maybe they couldn't. I don't know. And again, I don't even know if that plays into this thing at all. But it does seem to me, when I look at the map and I look at what's there strategically, it doesn't look like much else besides those gas lines. And they are important. Is the purpose of this thing a psychological stunt, a psyops against the Russian Federation to make Vladimir Putin, Bill Browder, who's a big Putin critic and behind the Maginski Act, Bill Browder said that this incursion makes Putin look weak. And maybe that's part of it, right? Maybe that's part of the strategy here, is to let the Russians know that they are not safe. They are not safe in their own homes. And maybe the reason that it took place there is not because of the gas, but because of who was defending Kursk. If we look at the makeup of the soldiery there, based on what we know publicly, the soldiery there is all conscripts. These are kids. Is Darth Elsa here? Hey, Darth Elsa, I fucking love you, dude. Hey, if you guys don't follow Darth Elsa, follow Darth Elsa. So, whatchamacallit, the only people, as we understand it, defending this region of Russia are conscripts, kids right out of high school that have to do a year of military service. And they are not supposed to fight in Ukraine. So they're not, right? They're on these defensive lines in Kursk, and they're not expecting to see any action. And all of a sudden there's action. This could be why we are getting reports. Officially, the Russian MOD says that the Ukrainians have taken 35 Russian soldiers prisoner. Well, that's bullshit. I mean, the Russians never admit to that kind of thing. So if they're saying that the Ukrainians have 35 POWs, it's likely that the reports that we're getting of mass surrenders could mean that the Ukrainians have actually taken 350 prisoners. We don't know. but I'm going to bet you it's a lot fucking more than 35. The other thing that is being reported in multiple outlets now is that the Akhmat brigades, which were also stationed here along the Sumy line, fled in the face of the invading force. Fled. Ran like the cowards that they are. Sasha's saying that they read of 300 plus today. Somebody else, does anybody know where you saw that? Where you saw that number? Because I don't have it from an official source. I only have it from some Telegram channels. Whoops. Okay, it's still hot in Kyiv. Now, what do we actually know? What do we actually know? It's just hot in here. I had the oven on before. Anyway, whatchamacallit, here's what it appears we know. It appears that a brigade-size force of several thousand, supported by at least 20 APCs, including American Strikers, and 11 tanks, although now I'm hearing reports of dozens of tanks, entered Kursk yesterday. Now, it appears that only 300 to 400 of that brigade went into the country. The rest are all along the line supporting them, the drone operators, the artillery operators, etc. That is what we know. There is no confirmation that the Russian Freedom Legions are involved. Nobody has said that the Russian Freedom Legions are actually involved in this raid. Or I shouldn't call it a raid, because by all accounts, this is not a raid. This is a major offensive incursion into Russian territory. And it's making progress. These guys have already captured about 110 square kilometers, it would appear, and at least 3 towns. That's not a raid, right? That's something else. Could it be a liberation? Now, one of the things that I had said on last night's live, and some of you may remember, was that if the Ukrainians are doing this now, it may be because they think they have friends inside of Russia, that they're not going to get the resistance that one would expect to get, that they're going to be met by some people who are going to help them. And there is some indication that that may be true, because 25 kilometers inside of Russia, we have video of Russian military trucks burning. And it appears that they were lit on fire by locals, by partisans. Now, if there's partisans behind the lines, ready to embrace the Ukrainians and support them as they move forward, that's going to change the calculus of this thing. It's going to change it. The question becomes, how much help do they have? How many people are on their side? And how much can we count on them? The Russian MOD, for its part, yesterday said that it had repulsed the incursion. Does that sound familiar? That appears to be completely incorrect, as today we got word that the town of Sudza had been taken. Freedom of Russia are partisans doing guerrilla activity inside of Russia. That's a great point, Russell Kennedy. So could there be a whole Legion of Russia group inside of Kursk ready to assist? Right? Sasha has a theory that Eugene is alive and they are driving him to Moscow. Well, remember Eugene. Thanks, Hitman. All right. So Pedro, we're just talking about the Ukrainian incursion into Russia. Now, one of the things that we saw, and this was super exciting, I thought, because this is the only time in history that that, as far as I know, it's happened, is that a Ukrainian drone took out another Russian helicopter. We just saw last week down in Donetsk a Ukrainian drone take out a Ka-52 helicopter. Up in Kursk today, we saw a drone, and the Ukrainians have published footage of this, hit the tail rotor of an Mi-28 helicopter and take it out. Incredible. The Ukrainian armed forces it is being reported that the Ukrainian armed forces have pulled air defense to the border. Now, this is important, of course, because of the glide bomb situation, right? And we saw in yesterday's battle, one of the first things that happened was aviation deployed the glide bombs against Ukrainian positions. For the most part, they also blew up a bunch of their own people who were retreating, is what we're being told. Though that is unconfirmed by the Russian MOD. That's only from the Russian mill bloggers. Putin has called this a large-scale provocation. And the Mardan channel, the Russian TV commentator Mardan, has suggested nuking the Ukrainians that have come into Russia. Just nuking them right there on Russian territory. What the hell? Putin's call or description of this major offensive into Russian territory as a large-scale provocation flies in the face of all reason and rationality. We are in the midst of a full-scale invasion that was started by the aggressor state. For them to complain or suggest that they are being provoked is the kind of victim-blaming bullshit that you usually hear in an Al-Anon session. It's insanity of the first order. Putin does have better hair than me. Great wealth buys great health. And I have neither. Overnight, oh, nobody cares. Overnight, Russia attacked Ukraine with 30 Shahed drones. They were all shot down. All shot down. Special operations of the Ukrainian armed forces executed an amphibious assault on the Tandrivska Spit, sometimes referred to in Latin as the Tendra Spit, where they destroyed equipment, electronic warfare equipment, and ground fortifications, as well as a bunch of orcs. These attacks are part of an ongoing attack to clear the Spit and the islands in the Dnipro from the Russian occupiers. So we can expect to see more of these kinds of attacks. I think that's for certain. On the front line, the town of New York has come fully into the gray zone. The Russians are claiming that they have taken it. It's unclear whether or not that is true. The T-0504 highway, which is the main highway that connects Toretsk to Chasiv Yar, and the two critical logistics hubs for the Ukrainians, has come under Russian fire control, it's being reported. That's going to hurt, because now everything has to go a long way out of the way to get to where it's going, without getting kaboomed. Yesterday, the Russians attacked 13 oblasts of the territory of Ukraine, either with drones and missiles or with shells and armor. On the international scene and international updates, for those of you in Great Britain, I do want to send out my my deepest empathy for the riots and this kind of social unrest that you've been dealing with. And I think that it is important to recognize that that is very much driven by Russian propaganda. This is what they do. They find a point of social division and they amplify it with misinformation and disinformation. And no one has been suckered by that more than the MAGA folks in the United States, my own people, right? And so my call to the folks in the UK would be to don't let yourselves be suckered by enemy disinformation, because there's a lot of it coming out and it is driving these riots. I agree, Russell. I agree. From the United States, Kamala Harris's choice of VP pick, Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor, I thought it would be worth a minute taking a look at his record on Ukraine. And I got to tell you, it's gold-plated. You hear that, hobo? You're not the only one that's gold-plated. Tim Walz, on the very day of the invasion, condemned it as an illegal aggression by Russia. Further, he went on to say that the people of Minnesota stand with the people of Ukraine in the face of that illegal occupation. He went on to sign an executive order that prohibited any state agency from doing business with Belarusian and Russian entities, completely severing all economic ties that Minnesota has or had with the Russian Federation and the Belarusians. It is important to recognize that his state benefits from the arms that comes to Ukraine. BAE Systems is in Minnesota, where they manufacture replacement parts for the howitzers. Additionally, they build drones there for Ukraine, and ammo is built in Minnesota. And it ends up on the Ukrainian front line. All of this put together says that Tim Walz, along with Kamala Harris, will be good for Ukraine and bad for Russia. And the way that Russian TV is trying to destroy Kamala Harris right now, it certainly seems like they understand that that's the case. Russia supports Iran, of course, but Shoigu and Putin both made comments. This shit kills me, man. So you got the Russians who are buying weapons off the Iranians and supplying weapons and cash to the Iranians. And then you got the Russians who every single day for the last 897 days have been targeting Ukrainian civilians. You have Shoigu and Putin in public statements to the Iranians say, we support you in your fight against the Zionist regime, but we urge you to be cautious and avoid civilian casualties and avoid targeting civilians. The hypocrisy of the Kremlin regime knows no bounds of any kind. And it is on full display in its dealings with Tehran and North Korea. We got an update on the Transneft oil refinery, which is still burning, I guess, from yesterday's hit in Komi. Now that's 2,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. And so I had suggested last night in the live when I reported that it was on fire, that it was probably a technical malfunction, not a drone strike. Today, we learned that it was in fact a drone strike. And it wasn't the only drone strike in the area. Not only was the Transneft oil refinery in Komi 2,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border hit, but also a gas processing facility in the area was hit. And The Russian Federation claimed that it shot down 36 drones in the attack. And so what we see here is Ukraine incrementally building its drone strike capabilities for longer and longer distances. This is a new record. I think the old record was 1,800 kilometers when they hit that solid fuel rocket plant in Bashkortostan. Now, that's all my top line news, guys, of what's happening today in the world. We'll go to questions and answers, Q&A, in just a second here. Before I do that, I want to thank Fitz, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. I didn't see him come in. Is he here? But if Fitz is around, pat him on the back. Thank him very much. He keeps the lights on here, and I appreciate it. Also, I want to thank the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk: Cheyenne, Vanetta, PT, John Williams, Jay, and Travis. And I also want to thank Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group over on the Book of Faces. And I want to thank Lars, who has the Discord server. And I want to thank Vanetta, who has the Dismantle Project 2025 group on the Book of Faces, and the Google Docs share, where you can get email message templates to Congress, the Senate, and the White House requesting a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And so that's where we're at. That's everybody on the team. Thank you, guys. Could not do it without you guys. John Murray, what do you want to thank me for? Dark Irish, you under the weather? How you doing? Bobby says no refinery is safe now after the LNG terminals in Russia. EU is still buying Russian LNG. That's true. And in fact, I just saw a report, Bobby, that France has doubled its Russian LNG purchases. And that's a real concern. Now, we can ask ourselves, why did France have to double its LNG purchases? Well, it turns out that it's the Houthis. Oh, Fitz, that worries me, pal. I hope you're doing all right. It's the Houthis. The Houthis are harassing shipping in the Red Sea, right up to the Suez Canal. And that's preventing the ships with the LNG from the Middle East getting to their European markets. And so the Europeans are finding themselves pinched on this LNG supply, and they're turning to Russia to fill the gap. And of course, LNG is not sanctioned the way that oil and natural gas through the pipelines are sanctioned. Because Russia has very little LNG capacity in the first place. It's not a major component of their business model. So whether or not Putin has encouraged Tehran to encourage the Houthis, knowing that this is the kind of thing that would benefit him financially, that's not out of the question. That's not out of the question at all. Did Ukraine get another gold medal, Steve? Cool. What is that? That's 3 golds now, right? We all do, Fitzy pal. We all do. Take it day by day, brother. I'm glad you're home. I'm glad you're all right. Okay. What else? Questions, comments? John Murray, I never found out why you had to say thank you. Why do you have to thank me? I'm thanking you for showing up. Thank you. Ukrainian forces have taken control. Holy shit, James. Where are you getting that? What's your source? So this is exactly what I was talking about, right? Why would they go in there? Now, James Aldridge is saying that he's seeing Ukrainian forces have taken control of the Gazprom Sudza compressor and metering station. That would be the target. That would be the target. You're welcome, PH. Oh, for my commitment to the truth. Oh, it's awfully hard, isn't it, to really be committed to the truth? It is so much more easy to believe some happy lies. And the fact that so many human beings prefer to believe happy lies than look at what's actually happening is really depressing to me. Thank you, John. Sure appreciate it. Maddie is saying that 7 towns in Russia, according to PT, and others have been taken. Could be. The electricity is staying on much better, Dusty. Thank you for asking. It's really good. It's really been good. You think this mayhem in Russia's side is build up for something bigger or too confused? I don't know, Pedro. I don't have any idea. I had suggested that the only reason to go in there is because of that gas switching station where the pipeline gas, natural gas, runs through. And it appears that that station may have been taken by the Ukrainians. Now, what they're going to do with it is anybody's guess. Bobby, all the experts say that Russia does not have the means for a summer offensive. It's amazing to me because we're like living the opposite of last summer. The opposite of last summer, everybody was waiting for the Ukrainian counteroffensive. It never came, really. They were stalled. The front line was stalled. Now, all summer, we've been waiting for the Russian counteroffensive, and the line is stalled. It's static there. It's a deadlock. Norwegian News says the gas point is taken. Wow. Isn't there also a power plant for switching the hostage plants? Oh, there is a nuclear plant there. You're not wrong, Pedro. If I'm not mistaken, there's a nuclear plant just northwest of where the incursion has taken place. Not that far. I don't know. I'd have to look on a map. But I bet it's within 30 kilometers. I bet it is. Interesting. We're very happy your F-16s are here too. Ukraine has surrounded the gas compressor station. The gas compressor station, Nightshade, or the nuclear plant? I saw drone footage of some Russian forces being captured. Nothing large scale. I saw some stills. They've surrounded the nuclear plant. Get the hell out of here. Trade that for Zaporizhia, maybe? No, that would be good. That would be a good thing to do. Interesting. No, that's the first I'm hearing of anything. I didn't even think they were that, I didn't even think that they were that close to it. Unless they've just moved farther than anybody could think. Somebody mentioned thunder runs before. I don't know if this is truly a thunder run, but the Ukrainians have made more progress in this offensive in 2 days than the Russians have in their Kharkiv direction in 3 months. And that's not even a joke. Yeah, they can turn off the valve upstream, but remember, that's where the gas is coming from. If the Russians want the gas to get to their customers so that they can get paid, the enemy is now in control of that valve, is what it appears to be. I think the high jump gold medal was their second gold medal magical. And I think they got the third in boxing today, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, Steve Kennedy. Well, Valhall, they do have 2 lines of defense. And it appears that the Ukrainians have broken right through both of them. You're not wrong. Nola Queen. Nola Queen. It's been a long time since I've been in New Orleans. I haven't been in New Orleans. Oh gosh, in about 15 years, I guess. Hey, Paulino, how you doing, pal? Nice to see you. 42,000 cubic meters a day to Europe. It's a lot of gas. It's more gas than you get after Trump goes to McDonald's. That was a joke. Breaking through the defense should raise Ukrainian morale. Not only should it raise Ukrainian morale, but it should hurt Russian morale. And if they've got a real target to go for, let's hope that they reach their objective. And I don't think they would do it without that. We just don't know what it is right now, which is why they're keeping their mouths shut in Kyiv. Hey, Betty Thompson, how you doing? Ukraine has not shut off the gas to Europe because their allies need that gas, Bobby. You know, and there's contracts for that gas, and Ukraine is supposed to make money on that gas, etc. Magical says, now that the F-16s are in Ukraine, what is the plan with them? Do you know? I do not know, Magical. When I listen to the analysts talk about the planes, what they tend to say is that the first step with the planes will be intervention and interception of incoming missiles. And now what that means exactly is another question. Are they just going to be running defense on cruise missiles coming in, ballistic missiles coming in, that kind of thing? Or are they going to be engaging with the fighters that are dropping the glide bombs? It seems unlikely that that would be the first stage. Intercepting those fighters, that should come later. What's in between, I'm not clear on. So what I think we can expect is a ramping up of the use of the F-16s as the pilots gain critical experience in the skies over Ukraine with them. And they'll start by shooting down the missiles that are coming in. New video now from Kursk and Ukraine. Sorry, that was Polino. Where'd that go now? New video from Kursk in Ukraine. Airplane attacked a town. We knew that Russian aviation has been coming in. We know that the Ukrainians blew up a power station in Kursk. That's true. Shadowhunter's given us the medal tally for the Ukrainians: 3 gold, 3 silver, and 2 bronze. Pedro, if this is as important a mission as the resources dedicated to it would make one believe, then it makes sense that we're hearing very little about it. That the demands of operational security would have the lid locked down on this pretty tight. Nightshade is suggesting that I assume you mean the Russians are moving 7,000 troops from Belgorod, Luhansk, and other areas. The F-16s are only equipped with air-to-air arms as of now. I know that there's been a call for better armaments for the F-16s, Fitz. I just don't know enough about armaments for F-16s to suggest what those should be. Thanks, Stig. We love your F-16s, pal. I think a lot of good things are happening behind the scenes, Dusty. I definitely do. Yeah, I don't think truth is incomprehensible at all. Not at all. I believe in objective truth. That's a real thing. Any fresh news from Kursk? Well, we've been talking about that Zamatis the whole hour pretty much. All we know is that there's a brigade of Ukrainians on the border and that they have pushed into Kursk. It may be that they have captured the Gazprom facility and compressor and switching station. Peter, it is an important election year, no doubt about it. You know, it doesn't matter how well you've been trained. Training and doing are 2 different things. And while I have every faith that the Ukrainian pilots got the best training they could get, it's a very different thing when you go to do something, you know? And that's going to take some time to ramp up. Sasha's saying, that reminds me that an Azov high-up tweeted, next week's going to change a lot, but who knows? The change is coming. The change is coming. The Russians increasingly appear to be culminating. And as the Ukrainians get better and better supplied, as the weapons continue to make it to the front, it's going to move in Ukraine's favor. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Hey, Dr. David Hayes is here, everybody. Say hi to the doc. Doc is a friend of the channel, that's for sure. Good to see you, Doc. Hey, Mad Mike. I hope Russia's getting a big surprise, Norbert, soon. Enlils is asking, does the U.S. alert Ukraine when Russia fires ballistic missiles, or are the detection abilities overstated? I don't know the answer to that, but my guess would be that, yeah, it's NATO forces that are providing intelligence to the Ukrainians. Now, the Ukrainians have their own intelligence, of course, and their own ability to detect these missiles and missile launches. But I don't think that there's any doubt that NATO is coordinating intelligence with Ukraine. At least I hope so. Hey, Flippy. Flippy, I passed up an acting gig to keep our dinner date on Saturday. It wasn't a good gig anyway. The Vance Harris in Philly. Oh, so J.D. Vance and Kamala Harris both had rallies in Philly yesterday. And Harris had 10K while Vance had 200. Maddie's first cousin was a Blue Angel pilot. Yeah, that's fucking cool. That's cool as shit, Maddie. Somebody is saying here they saw a video of a civilian in Kursk saying that the situation is much worse than the Russian government is saying. That was Nightshade, and that would be unsurprising to me. That would certainly track with what we know about the Russian government. Past weeks have given a bit more hope. The time when nothing happened grinded my gears. You know, we say nothing happened, but it's not true. Remember, this war is not being measured just in days and hours and minutes. It's being measured in lives and blood. And while the front line may not have moved, there are lots of Ukrainian parents who buried their sons and daughters in the last 7, 8, 9, 10 months now, since the American Congress and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, decided to torpedo our support for our ally during a time of their greatest need. Unbelievable. It's really embarrassing to be an American some days. Have social media platforms been infiltrated by government espionage? Asks Russian World News with TSMR. Yeah. Yeah. Are you hitting Iskanders in their own soil? So you're telling me that there are reports of Iskander hits against Ukrainian forces in Russia. Interesting. What percent is Russia refined oil has been eliminated? The estimates vary, Bobby, but the last good estimate that I saw said that refining capacity in Russia was down by about 12%. Remember, they're fixing the oil refineries as they go. Is there a good Russian who can dethrone Putin and stop this war? No, that's not a thing. Fix them, then hit them again, like they did with the Rostov-on-Don submarine, huh? Any thoughts on why the Kerch Bridge is still standing? I just had this conversation. Oh, gosh, who was it with? Was it with Roy Daniels? It wasn't Metallic. It was somebody who's in here tonight, but I just had this conversation. Why is the Kerch Bridge still standing? Because it doesn't matter. It's functionally not useful. It's too badly damaged to move any heavy military equipment over. The trains have only been passenger trains. We're only aware of one supply train that came through. On the road side, it's closed to all but one lane. And so that lane has to be open for 3 hours in one direction, 3 hours in the next. And right now, it's a quick escape from Crimea. And this is on the heels of the Russian command telling its officers and soldiers, if they have family in Crimea, they should get out now. They should get out now. And so we think that the reason it's still standing is mostly because it's an escape route. And the Ukrainians want as many Russians out of Crimea before they go in as possible. Reportedly they did. Then the rail bridge got hit, and I'm not sure what the status of that railway is right now, Sasha. PT, have patience with Fitz. Remember, he was in the hospital today. He's not feeling well. So he may be a little short-tempered, moody. He might even snap. Oh, I blocked that person, Dark Irish. I blocked that person. They're gone. Yeah, I hate that shit. Do you know that account that's pretending to be me is still up? I sent a copy of my goddamn passport to TikTok, and it's still up. It's outrageous. Yeah, no, I know, PT. I know, pal. But when you're dealing with Fitz, I was trying to help, brother. It's okay. I got it. It's all done. Fitz, you're a problem everywhere. Why can't you report it for impersonation? Oh, this is making me crazy, this fucking platform. TikTok doesn't remove fake accounts. Well, I blocked it, so at least it can't comment on my videos to contact them for crypto. Ugh. But I mean, if they can't address you guys directly as if they were me, then hopefully nobody will get scammed by them. How long do you think the Ukraine offensive will last in Russia? Sam, I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea. There is no way to know that until we know what their goal is. How long can Ukraine realistically hold out? That's a great question, Hego, and I don't know the answer to that. This is why I say that the outcome of this fight is not, unfortunately, in the hands of the Ukrainians. I wish it were, but it's not. The reality is that Ukraine is absolutely dependent upon what their foreign allies bring to the table for them. If we abandon Ukraine, Ukraine will keep fighting, but how much of Ukraine will be left when it's done is anybody's guess. If we stick by Ukraine and we give Ukraine what it needs to win, Ukraine will win. I don't believe that there's any doubt about that. Shadow Hunter, I'm not sure I understand your question. How is Putin going to spin Ukraine's move? So far, he's labeled it, if you're talking about the incursion in the north, he's labeled it as a large-scale provocation, which is a meaningless statement in the face of this war. Because it's only me or celebrity, and the search bar doesn't find you because I'm not a celebrity, Sasha. Really? Isn't that outrageous? And not today. Ukraine did not make 3 million drones, Damud. Ukraine's, oh, I'm going to forget who it was now. It wasn't the interior minister. It wasn't Mykolaiv Fedorov. It was the minister of digital transformation for Ukraine. Came out and said that Ukraine has the production capacity to make 3 million drones a year, but we don't have the money. Please give us the money. And nobody has yet given them the money. With EU and USA help, Ukraine can outlast Russia. Agreed, Bobby. Absolutely agreed. Psst. World War III, should we be concerned? Don't trust Putin. Yeah, nobody should trust Putin. And this is World War III, Stig. Make no mistake. This is World War III, only it's 1939. This is Czechoslovakia, and Czechoslovakia is fighting back. That's where we're at, in my opinion. Devin, I'm not sure what you mean. My opinion about Turkey. I assume you mean the country, right? Opinion on what exactly? Hold on, let me do this stupid puzzle thing. If your live goes more than an hour now, they cancel it on you. They close it out. Oh, great. And now I can't. I hate this fucking thing. All right. Okay. So, guys, we are at the top of the hour. So, again, I want to thank Fitz, not just for sponsoring tonight's live, but for everything. I mean, all the support. There are some really stalwart supporters of this channel. Most of you know who you are. Fitz really comes to the rescue, boy, when things are bad. And things were very difficult yesterday. I've worked that out thanks to you guys, especially Fitz. And I can go grocery shopping tomorrow. Anyway. Special thanks, of course, to the moderator team, the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. Cheyenne, Vanetta, PT, John Williams, Jay, and Travis. Big thank you to Nightshade, who has the Peters Peeps group over on the Book of Faces. Big thanks to Vanetta Larrett, who has the Google Doc share and the Dismantle Project 2025 group on the Book of Faces. Please join us there. Thank you, Hego. I sure appreciate that. The power outages and then some other things here in town had made production difficult. Now it's just a question of me getting back to work, really, and not letting myself get distracted. Do you know in this, now I don't know if it's in this country or if it's the policy of the bank that I made the mistake of opening my account in. But at this bank, if I want to deposit money into my account, I need a manager to fill out the paperwork. This is not even a joke. You can't go into a bank, go to the teller, give them your money, tell them to put it in your account. No, you have to go find a manager. They have to do all the paperwork. You have to sign in 2 places. They have to take you to the teller, leave you with the teller, and then the teller can't deposit your money either because there's a problem with the computer. Like, you got to be kidding me. It's insanity. That's in Ukraine, Dayan. PayPal is not fixed, Bobby. It does not interoperate with any of my Ukrainian bank cards. I can't get the money here. That is the problem. It's a real problem. Anyway, I will figure it out. All right, kids. Thanks so much for hanging out. I sure do appreciate it. Oh, yeah, they love Monobank, but as a foreigner, I can't get an account at Monobank. I wish I could, because Monobank seems to work. And nothing at Pum Bank works. Fuck Pum Bank. They are the worst. Yeah, Fitz. Exactly, brother. I should look into crypto. I should get me a crypto wallet. Now, if you're into crypto in this country, there's stations all over the place where you can do an ATM withdrawal of your crypto. Not even a joke. That's everywhere here. I'm not doing any business with Privet Bank. Privet is the worst. Now, Revolut, Jordy, is the one that I was talking about today to some people, and that's the next thing I'm going to try. All right, kids. Make it a great day.